Hello again, it's Brian from Allotments, and today I'm going to be starting to make a mixed fruit wine. And as you can see, I've got 6 kilos of mixed fruit from the allotment, which I've picked. Some are frozen from about a month ago, the first pickings of red currants, white currants, gooseberries, raspberries, strawberries. Freezing fruit helps break down the cellular structure, making the fermentation easier, releasing the more fruit. Frozen fruit doesn't need crushing or breaking up because it's already breaking down when it defrosts from the freezer. So it helps the whole process a lot easier, I think. I'm adding 4 litres of boiling water here on top of the fruit. This helps kill wild microbes that will be in the fruit, on the surface of the fruit. It also helps dissolve the sugar that we're going to add in a second. I'm going to add a couple of Camden tablets now. The reason for this is to sterilise the juice for whatever the boiling water hasn't killed. We want to be able to start afresh for the yeast to have a fresh starting environment with no microbes, no beasties in there and nothing like that. So these tablets will sterilise the juice, and we'll leave that then for 24 hours before we add the yeast starter, so the yeast has got a good environment to kick off without any beasties in there that we don't want. I'm adding 4 kilos of sugar into this wine because I like a sweet wine. There's a lot of fruit in this. There's 6 kilos of fruit, and usually you'd add a kilo to every kilo of fruit. But there's a lot of natural sugars in this, so I'm going to start with 4 kilos, and I'll take the gravity and see how it goes. I might be adding some more later, but I think 4 kilos is going to be okay. So I'm going to let that seep now in a sealed container for 24 hours. And while that's seeping, I'm going to make a cup of tea with 2 tea bags, only a half cup of tea. I'm going to leave it in the fridge overnight. So I'm going to get the ingredients for the next stage ready now. I've got my empty bottle, which I've sterilised. I've got the apple juice, which is from concentrate, but it's got no preservatives in it, which is very important. I've got some pectolase, which I'll be putting in the bottle. I've got my yeast and my yeast nutrient. So I'm going to make up a starter now. So I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of pectolase into my must, which the must is the juice from the crushed fruit. So I'm going to put that in now. So 1, 2, 3. And I'll give that a stir, and what that's going to do, it's going to help break down the fibres in the cells
to break down the fruit even faster. So I'm going to give that a stir and we'll move on to the next stage. So I've got half a pint of apple juice in a bottle, which I've sterilised. Very important because we don't want any germs to spoil the wine. I've got the yeast nutrient, which I'm going to put in here.
So it's 3 teaspoons of yeast nutrient, which is 1, 2, 3.
Now we put in our yeast. And this is a GV12. It's an ale yeast, which we can use for wines as well. We'll give it a good shake. And you can see that's our yeast, the nutrients all mixing in with the apple juice, and that's going to be our starter. So I'll leave that for 24 hours overnight, just to start the process of eating it up. So it's now 24 hours later, and our must, which is the juice, has been doing its thing overnight, starting to break down. There's a lot of juice produced. And what I'm going to do now is take the specific gravity of the juice, just to see how much sugar is in there. Again, we're all sterilised, and I'm going to attempt to get some juice without getting a lot of bits in it. Which is pretty difficult to do. So I'll put our hydrometer in there, give it a bit of a swirl. I have to take some of the bits out of that because it's difficult to do with bits in. But it's coming out at 0.9, which is that's the sugars that are in it at the moment. So that's pretty perfect, because I was looking for about 10. But I might just have to add a little bit of sugar to it. So that's the starting gravity of the must, is 0.9. So I'm now going to add the yeast starter, which has been going overnight. So we'll add that in now.
Tannins, which is found in tea, help the wine in its development, in its maturity. It also helps with the wine with the oxygenation during the aging process.
Just stir in all that yeast starter, which includes the nutrients, the apple juice, and half a cup of tea made with 2 tea bags. So to recap, make sure before you start anything that you sterilise absolutely everything that's going to come into contact with the wine, because the most reason that your wine is going to spoil is because of germs and bacteria, that if you haven't cleaned it properly, and then the whole process is a waste of time. I've taken the gravity for the must, which is to calculate the amount of sugar that's in it. To give you an idea, the specific gravity of water is 10000, which is 1. And as you've seen by the calculation from the juice and the must that I took was 0.9, which has the sugar content, which is a little bit high for my liking for to put the yeast in. So that's why I make a starter. And because exposing the yeast to changes in temperature and sugar levels, nutrient levels, it causes the yeast stress, and the least stress the better, because if you shock yeast, you can kill it off. So we create that starter as a little creche, a little baby area, where we give it its own little perfect environment for 24 hours. and then we add it to the must of the wine 24 hours later to circulate and give to ensure a healthy population. I'm using apple juice. If you use a different juice, just make sure that there's no preservatives in it, and it's even if it's from concentrate, as long as there's no preservatives, because the preservatives can interfere with the yeast or kill the yeast off. Why apple juice, you say? Well, it's a great medium to add to the wine, but also it includes malic acid. There are several organic acids associated to fruits. Malic acid is the one that is mostly present in apple. Tartaric acid and malic acid make up most of these acids in fruit. Why do we want acid in our wine? Acidity has a few functions in wine. The tartness helps balance the sweetness in the wine. The sweet elements, and otherwise it becomes sickly to the taste. It also tricks our palate into thinking the alcohol in the wine is a sweet element rather than that harsh burning sensation at the back of your throat. It also creates a harsh environment for microorganisms as well, like so if anything in the sterilisation process has failed, this may help the wine to get through that stage, by killing some microorganisms because it can't live in the acidic environment. Bottling the wine also helps with aging with the wine and maturity, and preserving the wine on a shelf if you're keeping your wine for years. But if you're anything like myself, usually I'm not too bothered about that, because it's usually drank within a year of making the wine. As you can see, I've now topped it up with tepid water to the 23 litre mark, and I'm going to seal the top, put a rubber bung in and a sterilising seal, and I'll leave that for a couple of weeks until primary fermentation has ended, and I'll move on to the next stage of secondary fermentation. It's now 10 days later, and I'm now sifting the contents through a muslin cloth and squeezing it into another container. Once sifted through the muslin cloth, I've left the wine for another 24 hours for the sediment to settle, and then I'm going to add these finings A and B that you can get off the internet for a very low cost. I'm putting finings A in first. So I'm about to bottle the wine now, the mixed fruit wine. It's had a couple of days now to clear. I put finings in, finings A and B, which you can buy off Amazon or eBay or something. I put the finings in the first day, the A. An hour later I put the second finings in, the B, and I've left it for 2 days. They say leave it for 24 hours, but I was just doing other things, so I didn't get round to it. But it can only help clear it. And if you look at the bottom, you can see a band at the bottom of all the sediment that's now settling. As you can see, the sediment, there's a good thick layer of sediment there. You'll never get a mixed fruit wine, completely clear because of the fruit, the type of fruits that you use and a mixed fruit. But you can get it as clear as you can. And I've just sterilised all these bottles, and I'm about to bottle and cork now.
So I'm just putting this away now. I've labelled it up. It's the beer salad that's going under, and it's a mixed fruit wine, and it comes out at 11%. And that's going in there with the rest of them. I've got some white Zinfandel. I've got some Cabernet Sauvignon, and all the rest of my beers. So I hope you've enjoyed it. That's how I make a mixed fruit wine. I've made it a couple of times and it's been really nice. This particular one won't be ready. I'm going to leave it for a few months, this one. The flavours that come through, you can get all the notes of all the different fruits that I've put in it. There's different additives you can add to these, but you can put oak chippings in if you want, like that woody tone aftertaste. But I just like it because it comes out as the way I've done it in this video, it comes out as a nice sweet wine, fruity wine, and it's summer refreshing wine. So have a go, enjoy yourselves, and that's all from me and Grandison Allotments. Bye for now.